Hello, what's going on, everybody? What's happening? So, this is Tiffany, and I'm coming through here live in effect. So, today's subject is going to be about asceticism. So, I know many people never heard of asceticism, right? Asceticism basically is a concept that deals with it's a practice in most like Abrahamic religion and some Eastern philosophy. Okay, and so it gets into the idea about basically bringing self discipline and self control. Yeah, so it brings the idea about self discipline and self control, asceticism, and basically is practiced in a lot of religion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show information and go into the concept about what asceticism is and what are the pros and cons to it. Okay. But make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share my channel. And I thank you guys that has been subscribing, that has been tuning in, and that's been very supportive of me. So let me go ahead and get started. All right, so first of all, let's look at what is the concept of asceticism. What is the philosophy behind it? Now, right here, according to the information from New World Encyclopedia, right? Asceticism describes a life characterized by abstinence from worldly pleasure. Those who practice ascetic lifestyles often perceive their practices as virtuous and pursue them to achieve greater spirituality. Many ascetics believe the action of purifying the body helps to purify the soul and thus obtain a greater connection with the divine or find inner peace. This may take the form of rituals, the renunciation of pleasure, and self mortification. However, ascetics maintain the self imposed constraints bring them greater freedom in various areas of their lives, such as increased clarity of thoughts and the ability to resist potentially destructive temptation. All right, so it says the term ascetic derives from the Greek word askes, was it askeskis, which means practice, training, or exercise, which refers to the regime many Greek warriors and athletes followed to attain optimal bodily fitness and grace. So historically, there have been two main categories of asceticism. Otherworldly asceticism is practiced by people including monks, yogis, and hermits who withdraw from the world in order to live an ascetic life. Famous examples include Lao Tzu, Gautama Buddha, and Francis of Assisi. Such men forsook their families, possession, and home to live an ascetic life according to their followers, achieve spiritual enlightenment. Worldly asceticism refers to those who live ascetic lives but don't withdraw from the world. For example, Mahatma Gandhi and many Roman Catholic priests have made asceticism the personal foundation for their work in society. It then goes on to talk about most religions, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism have ascetic tradition. However, some people have secular motivation to follow an ascetic lifestyle, such as an artist who deprive himself to clarify his mind for his work, or the athlete who deprive himself during training to be at the top form of for the contest. All right. So basically, what the idea says is the whole purpose is to separate yourself from the worldly activities or what will bring about distraction to you and what will cause you to lose focus. All right. So many people that practice asceticism, they do it for a religious reason to connect with themselves spiritually. Okay. That's their main reason for those who are very spiritual, like those who are monks, those who are priests, nuns. They're supposed to be ascetic, okay? Because they're supposed to keep themselves away from worldly activities and from getting involved into a lot of undesirable pleasures. Okay, so it's like you are in this world, but you're not of this world. It's the concept of spirit versus flesh. All right, that's what it is. Um, Now here's another article that I want to share. Okay, so you can also look on this website here. Peace to brother Norman. How you doing? All right. So asceticism and ritual self practices, right? So now, according to this article, it says asceticism is a concept that originated in the ancient Greek culture, right? So the term ascesis originally referred to training and exercise for a more physical and gymnastic nature, right? But it also came to denote the strictly regulated spiritual way of life that distinguished philosophical and religious state. Okay. And then also say the term is used in a broader sense of a spiritually transforming way of life that requires deprivation or deprivation, which is sexual abstinence, isolation, silence, reduced diet, and a discipline of daily routines for long, sometimes lifelong periods. If rites are often collective and not infrequently public events, limiting to particular festivals or life events, then ascetic techniques can be seen as individualized, permanent, and annihilated equivalents of collective rites. Asceticism can thus be seen as a ritualization of life and the self with the aim of achieving deeper forms of spiritual transformation, salvation, and insight. Okay. All right. So that's according to this website here. Now going down, it says in several of today's major religions, asceticism occurs in various forms, often in connection with special premises, orders, and communities, but also in the form of voluntary isolation from all kinds of social contexts. For example, asceticism is prominent in Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist monastic settings, as well as in contemporary form of fundamentalist Islam and ultra Orthodox Judaism, where this is seen from majority communities is prominent and eclavism is advocate. All right. Okay. So again, this comes from Stockholm University website. So you want to find out more information, you can find on this page as well. Okay. Now here's another one. This come from the collector.com. So let's see what the collector.com has to say. Oh, I'm glad that everything is going well for you. I'm happy. All right. Recently, the voluntary rejection of material wealth in favor of spirituality, asceticism, has become very popular. What does it mean? Okay. So, what is asceticism advantages? So, of course, it says it's a spiritual journey of a person that has disconnected from worldly affairs but can ascetic, really isolate themselves from the physical world they live in. Do they worry about world news and events in the outside world? If so, how do they combine asceticism and worldly concern? That's a great question. So it says in this article, we will try to answer in simple terms what asceticism is and how the decision to let go of the material aspect of one's life affect a person in the modern world. So again, it talks about what asceticism is, pretty much. So basically, going down here, said ascetic practices are used for many purposes. Okay. So for many religions, tradition encourage the voluntary renunciation of habitual blessing at periodic or specific time in the religious calendar, usually to purify a person's soul or prepare for a significant ritual event. All right. So it says, perhaps there is not a single religion in the world that would do without ascetic practices. Asceticism value in strengthening people's will and deepening spiritual powers have been part of many philosophical and religious movements throughout history. All right. So, for example, the 19th century German philosopher Arthur Skrono Pinher, was it Skrono Pinhara? I don't know how to say the last name, advocated a type of asceticism that aimed at destroying the will to live. His compatriot and earlier contemporary philosopher Immanuel Kant adhered to moral asceticism for the development of virtue. All right. So it goes into the main type of asceticism. Okay, so asceticism can be divided in two types. So natural asceticism, a way of life in which the material aspect are reduced to the utmost simplicity and minimal, but without the mutilation and severe atrocities from which the human body suffers. Unnatural asceticism, a practice that involves self-infliction of pain, such as sleeping on nails or self-mutilation. That's extreme. Asceticism also includes the development of moral qualities that require self-restraint and discipline, such as patience and forbearance. It is regarded as an important component of spiritual growth, which includes a wide range of practice aimed at identifying vices and cultivating virtue. Okay. Now, right down here, I'm just going to go down here just a little bit. It says previously the rejection of worldly things was associated only with hermit monks who voluntarily deprived themselves of all material goods and pleasure. So the essence of asceticism in its classical sense is reduced to the exaltation of chastity and a life full of hardship and rejection, as well as the rejection of any pleasure. So asceticism was once a flourishing practice. The monastic law governed the ecclesiastical peoples with astonishing rigidity, and even the laity were exposed to the complex of world of feasts and fasts. But with the beginning of the era of the Reformation in society, asceticism has declined in popularity. All right, so however, believing that the Reformation buried the ascetic life forever would be a mistake. In fact, it can be argued that voluntary abandonment of pleasure is thriving in ways never been seen. So ascetic instincts have morphed into secular counterparts with the decline of religious belief and practices. Food for the soul has ceased to be relevant, and a focus on the body has replaced it. The desire to serve the higher power is rapidly diminishing. Instead, there is a desire to seek materialistic means of salvation through strict control of the body. All right, so that's that information there. Okay. Um, Now I want to go ahead and give my view on it. So, as far as the pros and cons to it, the pro is basically learning the self discipline and learning how to maintain control and knowing that everything that might seem to be desirable is not always a desirable thing for you as a human. So that's one thing I can agree with. The concept of asceticism is basically learning how to balance yourself, how to keep a balanced life and be in control, because it's like mind over body as opposed to body over mind. That's why I stand with my position on asceticism. Now, the con is being totally isolated and alienating yourself from everybody in the society, because you cannot totally isolate yourself. If you do that, then that will pretty much drive you insane. Like, it will drive you insane to just try to live a total ascetic life. You will lose yourself. You will lose your way of functioning in the world, because at the end of the day, you still live in this world. You still got to maintain. You still got to take care of yourself. You have to evolve yourself in this society or some type of way. So to say that you want to live a total life where you are totally just dismissing yourself from the physical world is very problematic, and that could come down to all kinds of psychological issues. It even gets to a point where you start to become suicidal, because you are totally isolating yourself from everybody. And as humans, we are a social people, so we have to socialize in some sense. Now, you don't have to associate with yourself with every individual. You don't have to hang around with everybody. You don't even have to go certain places, but you cannot totally just be 100% isolated either. That you just start to drive yourself crazy and you start to lose yourself, because you have to have some form of social contacts. That's why, especially in Islamic culture, when there was a passage in the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's female companion came to him, and she was telling him how her husband would make salat just every night, and he would totally isolate himself from her, and he wasn't giving her any type of attention as far as like pleasure is concerned. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam approached the man and told him, hey, you can't just be doing that. Like, it's cool that you making salat, it's cool that you fasting, but don't just totally isolate yourself from your family. Don't ignore your family like that, because if your wife walk out on you and move on with somebody else, then you gonna wish that you would have made some quality time with her, and you going to regret that. So don't just totally put yourself in a position where you just so confined to being isolated. Isolation is not good for you. You gotta be able to communicate with your family. You gotta know what's going on around you. You know what I'm saying? You have to have some type of social interaction. So that was basically what the prophet was telling him. And he was like, okay, you know what, you right. I'm gonna make it up to my wife, and I'm gonna do what I need to do, and I'm gonna try to make sure that I minimize the amount of prayer that I make, and make sure that I just keep a balance with myself. And so basically that's what, yeah, so that's the whole thing. So in Islam, there is a concept of fasting. Fasting will be similar to asceticism, but except that it's just only temporary, and you only doing it throughout the day. So you're not doing it all day and all night. It's just like throughout the whole entire day, where you refrain from eating, drinking, and partying, and having sex or indulging into sexual activity. You refraining from that, because what you're doing is purifying your body and you're getting yourself focused. So the whole thing is, to have discipline is to be focused, and to be focused is to have discipline. Okay, so this whole thing where people cutting themselves up and sticking nails and just starving themselves to death, that's not even normal. That's not natural. That's an unhealthy thing to do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with fasting and balancing your diet, but to starve yourself and to be somewhere where you just have no human contact at all, that is not that is a very unhealthy thing, and that is not normal. And that is not the way to live as a human, because basically it will drive you insane. You will lose yourself. And you don't ever want to abandon your family like that. Now, it's one thing when you want to take a vacation, you want some time to yourself, but you don't want to abandon your family, because imagine what type of crisis that you would put them in, because you want to live the ascetic life, and you're doing it in the name of spirituality, which is nothing wrong with spirituality, but at the same time, spirituality also teaches you to have a relationship with the people that's important in your life. Spirituality also teaches you how to be able to have a productive relationship and be able to stay balanced with those around you, how to be able to link with like-minded people. That's what spirituality teaches you, not just be totally in isolation. So that's the con. But the pro is, you want to be able to have some form of discipline, and you want to be mindful of what you indulge into and who you have in your environment, because too much of anything can destroy you. Too much of anything is not good for you. And sleep deprivation is very unhealthy too. Because if you go days without sleeping, you gonna end up having insomnia. And that's not good. Your body gotta sleep. Your brain gotta relax. So But you just want to also be mindful of what type of things that you get involved in the world. Because you don't have to live a reckless lifestyle. You don't have to uh, interact with certain people. You don't have to go to certain environments. You don't even have to do all these different things. You know what I'm saying? You're able to bring some form of control as far as who you keep in your circle and where you go and what you do. So in a way, I believe that asceticism has its goods and it has its bad. Now, can some form of asceticism be practical? Yes. But the way that people are trying to practice it is not healthy. You can't be totally ascetic. It's just impossible, especially in a world like this. You cannot be totally ascetic. You got to keep up what's going on in your environment and what's around you. You have to pay attention. You can't just totally ignore everything. You have to pay attention to what's going on around you. So that's all I have for today. That's the topic, asceticism. And if you guys want to look up more, I can give you the name of the books. Okay, I will put it up in my community session so you guys can read on into it. And go from there. All right. So until then, y'all take it easy on yourselves. Peace and power. Thank you for watching my channel. And thank you for supporting the channel. Until next time, I will come back and do more subject. All right. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off.